where we can sit with a tall spine, but we can let the knees drop below the hip bones. So that might mean that we're sitting up on something. And then just letting the eyes close if that feels okay, or perhaps you want to take a soft gaze to the floor in front of you. Without doing anything, just take a moment to feel into this body, feel into this moment. And feeling our seat on the floor, cushion, pillow, chair, whatever we're sitting on, feeling our legs on the ground, feeling into our bellies, our warm bellies. We can arrive and drop in straight away to the presencing of this moment. And if you breathe into that sense of being here, right now, feeling legs, feeling where the legs and the buttocks meet with the earth or the props that we're sitting on, then we can slowly let go of the tightening and the grip and the to-do lists of perhaps the day ahead, or maybe yesterday's echoes. Just bring the awareness into that breath. And if being with the breath creates any anxiety, then just come to a place of pleasantness somewhere in the body, a place where we might not really feel any unpleasantness. So often that might be in the palms of the hands, or maybe it's an area we haven't explored for a while, like the tops of the ears or your little fingernail. If it feels okay to gently move towards the awareness of breath now, just feel the breath coming and going. And can we just very lightly deepen that breath? So it's not a forceful gulping in of as much breath as we can take. It's just this really delightful invitation of the breath to deepen. And as we deepen that breath, just noticing, is the deepening of the breath just puffing up the chest? Or can we allow for that breath to move down into the lower ribs? Down into where the nerve ganglia is going to be stimulated in the base of the lungs to trigger the parasympathetic nervous system response and ease any gripping of fight or flight or freeze response. And let's stay with that for a few moments, maybe taking a 5 to 6 second inhale, followed by a 5 to 6 second exhale. And if you've arrived on your mat this morning feeling particularly anxious or particularly ungrounded or just kind of in a bit of a tiz, feeling a bit stressed out, then we could afford to perhaps elongate that out breath to maybe 6 to 7 seconds on the exhale. Otherwise, just keeping the breath the same on both the in-breath and the out-breath. We're going to go for 3 more rounds of conscious breathing. When you near the end of your next exhalation, just bring the hands together, and you're welcome to join me in a single Om this morning. So just taking a deep breath in to prepare. Om. Namaste, yogis. So we're going to come straight to standing. So please go easy. We've been sitting for a while, so don't rush up, no dizziness, and just take your time. So we're going to step to the top of our mats and just find a comfortable position where the feet are hip width apart. And just take a moment to just smile down into those feet with your awareness and just get that even place, that even distribution through the inner and outer feet, through the pad of the ball of the foot and the heel, and then spreading into long, soft, light toes. So there's no gripping of the toes on the mat as you spread, guys. There's no whitening of the little toe joints. And then pressing down through earthed feet, like you could feel the roots embedding deep into the earth, bringing stability and also drawing that earth energy. Maybe you imagine it like liquid, like drawing up through your roots and into the hara or swadhisthana, into that belly space. And just lightly lengthen the tailbone, not overdoing it, so you can release the buttocks a little more. And then inhale, floating the arms up over the head, gaze up, navel draw it back. As we exhale, back of the hands touch, push full rotation in the shoulders, bending the knees and taking a bow to earth. Maybe the hands are going to rest on the shins to begin with. As we inhale, straighten the arms and just float the heart forward, shoulders are relaxed. As we exhale, slide the hands down the shins, maybe even fingertips to floor as you tuck the chin in. Take a deep breath in and out here. Let go of the weight of that head. Take one more deep breath. Let tension in the upper body melt. And then bending the knees a lot, we're going to step back to a downward facing dog. Pausing for a deep breath, maybe pedaling out through the heels if that feels nice. And at the tail end of that exhalation, just make sure you're engaging the core, drawing the navel in. Spread the fingers wide and let's ripple forwards through to a high plank. So lift the heels and then ripple the spine forwards, just like a wave surging to shore. Pause for a deep breath here, lengthen through the tailbone, press out through the heels, just building a little bit of heat and strength. And as we exhale, descending knees, releasing toes, keep shifting the weight forwards, drop the tailbone down, hug the elbows in as the chest and pelvis meet with the mat simultaneously. Reach back through the toes and ground the baby toenails into the earth. Feel a spread through the sacrum there as you keep a little bit of length in the tail. And then looping through the shoulders, just rising into baby cobra. And keep reaching back through the toes. Keep spinning the inner thighs to the sky. Loosen any excess grip of the glutes. Feel how nice that is for the lower back. And then exhale, reach forwards and down with the ribs. Tuck the toes under, lifting up and back to our downward facing dog. So here we're just going to pause for 3 deep breaths. Now remember that gorgeous sense of presencing that you felt in your gentle introduction to pranayama this morning. Can you come back into that awareness? Bring the curiosity of your inner child to awaken the awareness of that deeper breath now and how it feels to breathe into the lower chambers of your lungs. Where do you feel that slightly deeper breath touch the body? Is it just the front of the ribs or is it somewhere else? One more deep, mindful breath. And there's no rush or hurry, but on the next inhalation, we might walk to the top of the mat or we might step the right foot forward first and then the left foot follows. Feet are hip width apart, hands to shins or floor, inhaling to half lift, exhaling as you take a bow, tucking the chin. Inhaling, float the arms wide up and over the head. And as you exhale, let's release those hands down by our sides. Let's stay at the top of our mat. Press down through those feet. Inhale, rising up. Exhale, navel to spine as we exhale and bow to earth. Inhaling, half lift. Exhaling, stepping left foot back first to downward facing dog, right foot follows. Now we're rippling straight forwards into that high plank position, pausing for a deep breath here. As you exhale, lowering the knees, releasing the toes, keep the weight shifting forwards, tailbone long, belly toned, elbows in as you lower chest and pelvis simultaneously to the mat, looping the shoulders, navel in, rising through cobra, and exhaling to earth, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. So a little bit faster on those transitions there, but slowing down the breath here, having a gorgeous pause in our downward facing dog. Spreading the toes, pressing the floor away from you, stretching your sticky mat as you press the hands firmly into the earth. Make sure you're sinking the finger pads into the ground so you're supporting the wrist joints. So you can spread the toes, easier said than done in a downward facing dog. Take the tops of the thighs up a little higher, press them back. I'm going to take one more deep mindful breath here down into the lower lobes of the lungs. And then inhalation flows, and we're stepping forwards with the left foot. Right foot might follow. Take as long as you need to get there, guys. Hands can be on the shins or the floor as we inhale, half lift, exhaling to bow. On the next inhalation, floating up to the heavens. And as we exhale, releasing the hands down by our sides. Great. So feet hip width apart, starting a little differently now. Find your feet, find your anchors, find those roots that embed deep into the earth. Feel the stability of your legs as you sink into a squat position and rise up through those arms. Imagine someone's got hold of your wrist and you're just sinking the hips back and down, just letting go through the weight of those hips. Taking another big deep breath. You could always gaze up, you could always press the palms together to make that a little bit more fierce. And as you exhale, imagine you're opening up curtains. Circle the arms wide as you bow down towards the floor. Nice, guys. Hands to the shins, all mat. Inhaling, half lift position here, toning the belly. Exhale as we bow down, tucking the chin. And then stepping back into high plank. So step back, right foot, left foot, high plank position. Now, if chaturanga is in your practice and you've got beans in the tank, please move through chaturanga through up dog. Otherwise, lowering the knees, releasing the toes, chest and pelvis, just like before, down onto the mat. Loop the shoulders, spread through the sacrum, baby toenails embedding into the earth, rising through cobra or up dog, and exhaling all the way to downward facing dog. Now, from downward facing dog, we're going to change things up. Let's turn the left heel in 2 inches. Left heel, we're turning it in 2 inches. Right foot, we're going to step it between the hands. Easier said than done. Grab the calf, help that leg through. Now, from this place, make sure it's like you're standing on tram tracks. So there's a bit of space between the feet still. Inhale, press through strong earth legs as you rise up to what we might call warrior one. And bending that right knee, drawing that right thigh bone back, rolling that outer left hip forwards. There's a rolling here, and there's a drawing back of this right thigh, then a bending of that right knee. Arms are up, obviously shoulder complaint people. You might want to have the hands in prayer. You might want to have the hands on the hips. You can do anything you like. You could intertwine the fingers if you wanted to open up the chest. Just make sure you're engaging that core. Pause and breathe. Take another couple of deep breaths here, guys. Gorgeous. Now we are going to open out to the sides. We're going to turn to the left side of our space and open up into warrior two. So this time we're going to heel toe the heels to align with one another. Okay, so heel to heel alignment. The right foot's still at a 90-degree angle, the back foot's about 45 degrees. And then sinking that right thigh to a degree that challenges us. We want to build a little bit of heat here. We're not letting that knee go beyond the ankle. We're either above the ankle or just behind the ankle, okay? Take that tailbone to be long, gaze out over the right fingers, pause and breathe. And as always, guys, if you need to mobilize, if you need to come in and out the pose, know that that's welcome. Sometimes we do this variation where we take off the jumper and then reach out. So finding your variation, pressing that right thigh towards the right side of the room. Breathe here. Now, again, that presencing that you found right at the beginning of the practice in your breath work, we want to hold or work towards being with that state of presence during our practice. So drop into your breathing, drop into your breath. Breathe deep down into the base of the ribs and lungs. And it's just heat building in the thigh, that's fine. You can be with that. There's other million sensations and functions going on within us. So can you bring yourself into maybe the palms of the hands if the thighs starting to burn a little bit? Breathe deeply, breathe fully. Last deep breath. Now inhale, float the right arm to the sky, slide the left hand down the back leg, navel to spine as you gaze up. And as we exhale, cartwheeling the hands to frame the front foot, pivot onto the ball of the back foot and slide the right leg into high plank. Low plank chaturanga through up dog, or dropping the knees, releasing the toes, chest and pelvis to the earth. Loop the shoulders, roll through cobra or upward facing dog. Exhaling to your downward facing dog position. Pausing here for some beautiful deep breaths, no rush or hurry, slowing everything down. And then we're going to do the same thing on the second side. So turning the right heel in 2 inches and placing that heel down. We're going to step the left foot between the hands, think warrior 1. So it's like your feet are on tram tracks. You've got some space for the hips to breathe. Inhale, rising, press through firm, anchored feet and legs. Reaching the arms up, or maybe shoulders are sore today. So perhaps we're here, pausing with the thumbs nestling into the breastbone, or maybe even the hands on the hips or intertwined behind you. Okay, pause, breathe. Honor the needs of the body. You draw that left thigh back, outer right hip, roll it forwards. Ground through the baby toe side of that right foot. Pull the belly in. Lift the pubic bones. Take one more deep breath here. And then we're going to open out to the right side of the room this time. So we've got a heel to heel alignment. So take a moment to adjust the legs and sinking that left thigh to eventually maybe a 90-degree angle, gazing out over the left fingers. And again, you can pause and be still here as you drop into the deepening of your breath, the deepening of the awareness, and the presencing of this moment. And of course, shoulder complaint people, it might be too much to have the arms up. So you might have the hands on the hips. You might decide to come through that jumper variation, taking the jumper off. So if you need to move, know that you can move. As you hold the pose, you might find that that left thigh starts to burn a little bit. And that's fine. That's just waking up the muscles, toning the muscles, getting the metabolism going, guys. Breathe deeply, breathe fully. And when this thigh gets really chatty, or maybe it's the buttock, then just start to feel into somewhere that's giving us less information. Maybe it's the crown of your head, maybe the tops of your ears, maybe it's the little fingernail. Sink a little deeper if there's space to go there. Keep pressing the left knee to the left, tailbone long. One more breath. And then inhale, float the left arm to the sky, lift the ribs to the heavens. And as you exhale, cartwheel the hands all the way to the mat. Slide that left leg back to high plank, yogi's choice, chaturanga, up dog, or low knees. Releasing toes, belly in, chest and pelvis to mat. Loop the shoulders, baby toenails pressing into the floor as you rise through cobra. And exhale to your downward facing dog. Pausing and breathing in our dog here. Finding that same sense of spaciousness. And just start to really feel into the vivacity of the body, the aliveness of your body. The heart beating, the blood pumping throughout the entire body. Can you draw up through your thighs? Engage the thigh muscles. Press the floor away from you and broaden across the upper back. Take one more leg, one more breath, really standing into the legs. Now we could either, on the next inhalation, walk, crawl, or hop to the top of the mat. So that's just yogi's choice. As you inhale, we're going to take a half lift with the feet hip width apart. As you exhale, bearing down, tucking the chin. And then remembering chair pose, bend the knees, floating the arms up without letting those inner knees collapse together. Exhale, press through to standing. Continue that exhalation as you release those arms down both sides. Well done, guys. Inhaling, we're going to bend the knees with Uttanasana. Exhaling, straight in and down to Uttanasana, forward bend. Inhaling to a half lifted position. And as you exhale, stepping back to a high plank. Breathing in, firm the core. As you breathe out, either chaturanga, upward dog, or low knees, chest and pelvis all the way to the mat, looping the shoulders, rolling through cobra, draw the navel back, exhaling all the way to downward facing dog. And then turning the left heel in a notch and stepping that right foot forwards. We're going to pull the belly in and once again, rising into our Virabhadrasana 1, warrior 1 pose. Pull the right thigh back. Gorgeous. You could gaze up, you could press the palms together. Shoulder complaint people, you might be more here, and that's wonderful. If your shoulder's okay, you might be reaching slightly up, a little higher. Bend the right knee a little bit more. Challenge yourself. Keep the tailbone long. Front ribs, draw them in. And then exhale, let's bring the hands onto the hips. We're going to step the back foot in a notch. And we're going to pivot onto the ball of the left foot. So we've taken that back foot from 45 degrees to ball of foot. I'm going to move back just because I'll end up in these plants as normal. And make sure those feet are hip width apart. It's just going to give you a little bit more balance. Now pull the belly in, float the arms up. As you exhale, we're going to lean forwards, really draw that navel back. Now sweep the arms back behind you and the spine's at a diagonal. So the spine and the back leg are on this horizontal line. Keep rolling this outer left hip forwards. Good. Now hug the belly in. As you exhale, leap of faith, press through that right foot. Go for gold. Take flight. Virabhadrasana 3, guys. Reach back through flared fingers. I was collaging a bird yesterday out of recycled paper. So this is feeling very synchronistic right now. So imagine yourself as a beautiful bird soaring into freedom. Take another couple of deep breaths. You've got this. Don't worry if you wobble. That's fine. That's life. Just come back into the play. And then exhaling, bend the right knee, tap the toes down, high crescent lunge on that inhale. And as you exhale, let the hands descend. Float the right leg back to high plank. Well done. Exhaling, chaturanga through up dog or low knees, chest, pelvis to mat. Loop the shoulders and roll through a gorgeous cobra. Exhaling to a downward facing dog. And let's pause for a couple of breaths. Just making sure we're keeping it nice and slow as we go. Now, if you found that last pose challenging, me too. So, you know, these challenges, they come up in our practice, but how do you meet them? When you kind of observe coming into that pose, how do you respond mentally? Have you already told yourself that your balance is terrible before you've tried it? Are you still telling yourself that the balance is terrible whilst you're in the pose? So really noticing that internal analyzing, and see if you can give that up and just hand all the power over to your inner child. Have so much more fun. Well done, guys. So we're going to turn that right heel in 2 inches to the midline of our mat. So the right heel turns in 2 inches to the midline of the mat. Heel is grounded. Stepping forwards with that left foot. Think warrior 1 to begin with. So strong earth legs as we rise up. And then just take our time settling in. Drawing that left hip back this time. Rolling the outer right hip forwards. My friends that want to challenge themselves, you might be pressing the palms together and gazing upwards. As you gaze up and the eyes meet with the sky, try and lift the gaze without crinkling the brow and creating tension in the forehead. Yeah. Breathe deeply, breathe fully. Ground through the baby toe side of that right foot. We're going to take one more deep breath. Draw that navel back. And then releasing the hands to the hips. Pivot onto the ball of your right foot. So this time you're on the ball of your right foot. And remember that little secret tip. We're going to step the right foot in to make life so much easier, so much more enjoyable. And if you've got something in front of you, you might want to step back a little bit. Yeah. And then just taking an inhalation, float the arms up. And as you exhale, navel back, really important to engage the core here, guys, as you bow forwards into this bizarre diagonal, engage the core. Strengthening pose. Roll the outer right hip forwards, outer right hip, roll it towards the ground. Pause and breathe. And then let's take that leap of faith. As we sweep the arms back, we're going to transition the weight into that left foot. Press down through that left foot, left leg straightens, press out through the right heel. Keep rolling the outer right hip down. Breathe, take flight, soar. And come into the awareness of your inner child playing here. Don't be serious, don't get stuck in the rigidity of adultness. Give that power over to your inner child and let her play. When a child cartwheels and stumbles and falls, they just get back up, they don't even think about it. So just come back to the pose, last breath. And then exhale and bending that left knee, toes ground, rising high crescent lunge. Exhaling, take a bow, step back to high plank position, either chaturanga, allowing knees, chest and pelvis, looping through up dog or cobra, and exhaling to your downward facing dog pose. I'm going to pause here for several deep breaths. Unless you need to rest in child's pose, know that that's welcome too. But whichever pose we're in, can you come back into the awareness of your breath, the way that you're breathing? Can we deepen to stay nice and calm? Remember, the nerve ganglia in the base of the lungs help to support the stimulation, the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system. The upper chambers of the lungs in the chest, when we're breathing there, the nerves here stimulate the sympathetic nervous system. It's kind of interesting that it's called sympathetic because there's not really that much sympathetic about a fight or flight response, is there? So breathing deep down into the lower chambers is always going to make us feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more patient, a little bit easier to digest life's challenges, and to go with the ebb and flow. 2 more breaths. Now, if you're in child's pose, please join me in a downward facing dog. And we're going to let that right leg rise to the sky, if that's okay. Leading with the inner right thigh. And then exhale, step forwards, right foot. Now, let's start with the back knee down. Take it a little easier, perhaps. And with the back knee down, the pressure is moving through the top of that left foot, so much so that you could elevate the left knee at any point should you want to. We're not going to do that, but it's just nice for the knee not to have so much pressure, isn't it? And then as you gaze forwards, just drop the weight of the pelvis forwards and down. And just delight in having a quadricep and hip flexors. Front of this left thigh, front of the left hip. Let go of the shoulders. And just breathe into the sweet simplicity of some of the shapes that we create. Some of them very complex, aren't they? But just the simplicity of this pose. Pause here. Find that breath. Find your presencing within the breath. Leave everything else at the door. If you really want to, you can always pick up your stuff on the way out. Just being with this moment. And this moment. And this moment. And with those feet anchored, feeling inside the body as you rise up, drop the tailbone. As you exhale, prayer position hands as we twist to the right and take that left elbow over the outer right thigh, and perhaps we're gazing to the right. Now, if this isn't possible for anyone, this is a big twist, guys. So if this isn't possible for anyone, you could rest the elbow on the right thigh. You could even make that even more enjoyable by having your left hand on a brick and maybe the right hand on the right hip, okay? So finding the pose that meets your needs today. And then relax the shoulders. And if you want to go a little bit juicier, a little bit more fiery, you can tuck the back toes, press out through that left heel. As you press out through that back heel, hug the outer right hip in, draw up through the front of the spine, revolve the ribs a little more to the right, as if you're dragging the left side belly over the right thigh, and then maybe gazing up to the ceiling. Press the palms together quite fiercely here, whichever variation you're in, and imagine your thumbnails are going to align more with the center of your chest, more with your breastbone, rather than your right shoulder. Sink the right thigh, deepen, press out through that left heel if the back knee's elevated, for 3, for 2, and 1. My friends that want to work hard, come up into high crescent lunge before releasing the hands to the floor. Otherwise, just look down, release the back knee, release the toes. Inhale, float the arms up. And exhale, releasing the hands. Well done. If you're craving a half vinyasa, then know that that is so sweet to go into that place. So please move through your transition. Otherwise, coming back to tabletop pose and just taking some nice sweet rotations of the hips. Breathing deeply, noticing how it feels in the hips to rotate them. With deep breaths. And maybe circling, swaying the hips in the opposite direction. And eventually from tabletop pose, we're going to tuck the toes and rise back into a downward facing dog. Float the left leg to the sky, 3-leg dog. Lead with that inner left heel, lead with the inner left thigh, and then sweep that left foot through and the right knee down. Now we might need to step that left leg through instead, just grab the back of the calf. Remember, you're pressing down through the top of the foot, so much so at any point we could levitate that right knee. Obviously, we're not levitating the knee is grounded, but just with minimal weight because that back foot's doing all the work. And then just sweetly rocking the weight of the pelvis forwards, dropping into that tender heart, dropping into letting go of any achievement of the pose. Just letting gravity take over now as the pelvis descends forwards and down. Let go of the weight that we've been carrying on those shoulders. Let go of the grip in the neck. Loosen off the jaw. Really let that thigh, those right side hip flexors, just release some of that grip. So obviously, the longer we hold a pose, the more plasticity we're going to move through the tissues, the more length they're going to have. Taking another couple of deep breaths down into the base of the ribs and just really presencing your awareness. And then when the time's right for you, we're going to press through strong earth feet and we're going to rise up. And as we rise up, we're going to drop the tailbone down and melt forwards, press the palms together, twist over to that left side this time, looping your right elbow over the outer left thigh. Again, variations might be to rest the forearm onto the thigh and the left hand either on the hip or the sacrum. We might decide to take a brick underneath the right hand, and this might be a really beautiful position for us to rest in. If you have beans in your tank and you want to go a little deeper, you could tuck the back toes and press out through that right heel and then sink that left thigh, bending the left knee more to make that even more fun. And for all of us, we're pressing the palms together. So if we relax, and we'll notice the thumbs kind of nestle comfortably into that left shoulder, but we don't want to do that. We're going to press the palms together to encourage the twist. And eventually the thumbs move a little closer to the alignment of the breastbone. Gazing maybe towards the ceiling to deepen. 2 more breaths. Sinking a little deeper if you want to go a little further. And then my friends that want to work a little harder, just come out of the pose through high crescent lunge, taking the arms to the sky. Otherwise, we're going to gaze forwards, lower that back knee down, release the toes. And as we unwind, we're going to take the arms to the sky, lengthen up, melt the pelvis forwards, gaze up to the sky. It feels so nice, doesn't it? Exhale the hands to the floor. Now you might want to half vinyasa here, high plank, low plank, up dog to down dog, or you might just want to slide that left foot back and join me in some free movement. So last time we were circling the hips. This time you can do anything you like. You might feel like a cat-cow. It might not be such a classic cat-cow, but it might be more of a rippling thing that you want to do with your spine. It might be that you're craving to sway, or maybe you really enjoyed circling the hips before. You might just want to shake and shudder. You might want to create sound. And then from there, just taking a little rest. Let's come down onto our bottoms. Let's check the time. Yes. So, well done. We're going to take ourselves into Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold. So we might want to take a folded blanket, a pillow, or a small block underneath the hips. We might also benefit by having a belt. You don't have to have a belt. Don't worry if you don't. No panic. Sitting on the edge of our prop, so that the pelvis is encouraged to move from this place to this place. So it's like you're sitting in front of your sit bones. Yeah. Now, if our hamstrings are really tight, if our lower back's feeling really tight or stiff today, we could even bend our knees throughout this one. Have a nice time. Otherwise, we'll straighten out the legs. And if the legs are straight, guys, just take a look. Make sure the feet are together, legs are together. We're taking the inner thighs to roll down, inner thighs to roll down. And as we curl the toes back, often we cheat and we draw the big toe sides back, but can you draw the little toe sides of the feet back as well? Yeah, nice. Now anchor down through those tops of the feet, femur bones. Inhale, float the arms up, draw the navel back. As you exhale, move from your pelvic tilt. When you can't go any further, we might decide to grab our belt and lasso the balls of the feet. We might decide, if we don't have a belt, to rest the fingers, tented fingers, and claw back against the floor here. We might decide to hold the shins or the ankles. Wherever you're at, pull against the resistance of either your sticky mat, your belt, your shins, whatever you're grabbing, to draw the heart forwards and through. Imagine you're going to hook the breastbone over the big toes. Even if we're here, just imagine that, lifting over the big toes. Yes. And then with each breath, maybe we go a little deeper, walking the hands down the belt or walking the hands down the shins to the ankles. For some of us, we might be able to hold the balls of the feet, thumbs wrapping over the top of the foot there. Little acupressure point there between the first and second metatarsals. Remember the liver point. Those of you that came to class last week, we were looking at this liver point. So between the V of the long muscles, bones of the foot, you come up to that V at the top there, liver 3. That's going to really alleviate any stagnation of energy. It's going to alleviate any depression. It's going to help ground our energy if we're a bit floaty. And for the last couple of breaths, just let the spine round now. Let the head go, and you can let go of the belt if you want to. You can let go of the feet flexing. You can let go of any muscular contraction in belly or in thighs. So much more yin-esque. So we've gone from Paschimottanasana to caterpillar pose, as it's known in yin. And now just feel into the feminine qualities of yin. The settling, the undoing, the surrendering, the cooling. The passive release. I'm going to be here for 5 more deep mindful breaths. And when I say deep breath, it's not a really charged, fierce breath. Just a gentle exploration of how it might be to breathe into the base of your ribcage, base of your lungs. Last breath. And the navel contracted to the spine. Start to walk the hands back in super slowly. I'm just sitting with a calm but long, elongated spine. Maybe back to the hands on the thighs. And just notice what forward folding does for our energy, our awareness. Notice how you feel. And if we left it there, we'd probably not want to have a conversation with another being. So we'll balance that with a counter pose of opening up the front line of the body. So if you're sitting on something, maybe coming off of that for a moment, I'm going to give you a couple of options. We're doing time. Yeah. So the hands are behind us, the fingers are pointing forwards, and we can seal the fingers together. If it feels better with the hands apart, of course you can, but I was just taught that way, so that's the way I do it. So fingers together, feet hip width apart. For upturned table, draw the navel in, press down through strong earth feet, particularly the mounds of the big toes. Straighten the arms, puff open the chest, and then just imagine driving down through the feet and the knees traveling forwards as the chest travels back. And you might lift just a little bit, so there might still be a bit of a hammocking in the body. And you might decide after a breath you could lift a little higher by pressing through the feet, lengthening the knees forwards and sending the chest up and back. Breathe deeply, breathe fully. When you're fully in the pose, you could let the head drop back if the neck's okay. Another variation of this pose that you could play with is if you bring the hips down for a moment and turn the left hand back. We've done this together before. Turn the left fingers back this time, so it's a different placement of the hand, and the right hand slots between the inner legs. Press through the feet. Same thing, knees travel forward, chest travels back, but the right arm can either reach the sky or reach behind you. And then you can come either in and out of the pose or stay in that shape for a few breaths. So really feel into and play with this counter pose. Where do I want to go? Do I want to be moving in and out? Do I want to be still in a pose? What do I want? Resting whenever you need to rest. We're just trying to get the mind to cooperate with the body's intuition in our practice, letting the body lead us rather than the analytical mind doing all the work or leading the way. And when you've finished your upturned table variation, you can come down in your own time and just take the soles of the feet together. And I'll let you decide whether you want to do a long-legged butterfly forward folding, maybe more yin-esque. I'm going to teach more. So this would be a yin variation. The heel's quite far away from the buttocks, so that's much more relaxing. I'm going to do a slightly more active variation. So you can decide which one you prefer today, what you desire or need. So bringing the heels closer towards the groins or towards the pubic bones. And you could always sit onto something to encourage the pelvic tilt here. And then we're either going to hold around the ankles, if we're doing the active one, this is. We're either going to hold around the ankles or we're going to intertwine the fingers and loop those fingers underneath the arches of the feet. We're not grabbing toes. Remember, if you grab toes, That's just going to pull a misalignment into the inner knees. So either holding ankles or wrapping underneath the toes. And whichever variation we're doing, let's press the feet together like they're magnetized, they're glued together. And at the same time, as you glue the feet together, remember we're trying to get really long femur bones, thigh bones. So it's like your knees are moving outwards as your feet press together. You'll notice there's a little opening that occurs in the hip when you do that. Open up the chest, pull against the ankles or the soles of the feet, on under arches of the feet, and begin to fold forwards on your exhalation. Pause and breathe. Wrap the elbows on the inside. Notice what's here. Pause and breathe. For some of you might find you can go a little deeper with each breath, still working with pressing the feet together and lengthening those femur bones, sending the knees wide apart, opening some space in the hip capsule. Eventually, you might decide to bow the head forwards if you're in that yang variation. If you're in the yin variation, just keep letting go. If you're in the yang variation, the active variation, then everything of the upper body is now letting go, but the lower body is still working. Pressing feet together, drawing knees apart. All of us uniting in a slightly deeper breath, exploring that. One more round of breath. And then drawing navel to spine, slowly stacking that spine, gently coming up, guys, in your own time, bringing those knees in, coming off of our perch, and we're going to set up for Shavasana. So you might take a bolster behind the backs of the knees. You might have a thin fold or a pillow under the head. Just remember, you never want to have loads of pillows. You don't want the head tilted like this, too much of a stretch for that the back of the neck. And as you come into your Shavasana, you might desire another counter pose, a happy baby, a hugging in of the knees. Maybe you're craving a bit of a twist. Maybe there's a little windshield wiper action of the legs. So there's no rush to come in. Counter pose, settle the body, listen to her needs. What is she telling you? What is she asking for? So can you imagine just throwing wide your energy? Perhaps becoming a little bit more buoyant. And feel your vivacity, the effervescence under your skin, the fizzing, the tiz, the bubbling. Really feel into your aliveness. And breathe in and out deeply. And really bathe and bask in this ability to throw wide your energy, to unlock, to unravel, to unlatch, unfurl, spread out. And soothe the body with warmth, tenderness, and the benevolence of your heart. Continue to delight in your silken body, in your expanded energy. To breathe a little deeper. And of course, if anyone wants to stay in their Shavasana, you're so welcome. Don't feel you need to come up. But if anybody does need to come up, you have things to do today, then just taking your time, just gently feeling into your feathers. And eventually, through some movement, rolling over to the side, coming up in your own time. And for those of you coming up, we'll just find our Anjali Mudra, hands at prayer position. Taking a moment to just channel our awareness through the Sushumna, the central channel, breathing from sky to earth and from earth to sky. Feel free to join me in a single Om to close. So just taking a deep breath in to prepare. Namaste, yoginis.